By the spring of 44 BC, Gaius Julius Caesar was the most powerful man who had ever lived. He had conquered Gaul, invaded Britain, crossed the Rubicon with his legions in defiance of the Senate, defeated his rival Pompey in a civil war that ranged across 3 continents, and been declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life, by a Senate that no longer dared refuse him anything. He wore purple robes, placed his image on coins, and had a month renamed in his honor. Rome, which had overthrown its kings 5 centuries earlier, and built a republic on the sacred principle that no single man should hold absolute power, watched in growing horror as Caesar dismantled that principle piece by piece. Caesar was not blind to the resentment. He had pardoned most of his former enemies after the Civil War, a clemency that was either extraordinary generosity or extraordinary arrogance, depending on who you asked. Many of the men he pardoned hated him all the more for it, because a pardon is a gift, and a gift from a tyrant reminds you every day that your life exists at his pleasure. Among those pardoned men was Gaius Cassius Longinus, a lean, sharp-eyed senator who had fought against Caesar at the Battle of Pharsalus and never forgiven himself for accepting mercy instead of death. Cassius began recruiting conspirators in the winter of 44 BC, approaching senators one by one with careful arguments about liberty and the Republic. His most important recruit was Marcus Junius Brutus, a man Caesar loved almost as a son. Brutus was a descendant of the legendary Lucius Junius Brutus, who had overthrown the last king of Rome, and the weight of that ancestry pressed on him like a physical burden. Anonymous notes appeared on his chair in the Senate reading, "You are asleep, Brutus, and you are no true Brutus." Whether Cassius planted them or others did, they worked. Brutus joined the conspiracy, and his name gave it legitimacy. The conspirators, who eventually numbered over 60 senators, chose the Ides of March, the 15th, as the date. Caesar was scheduled to leave Rome 3 days later for a military campaign against Parthia, and this was their last chance. On the morning of March 15, Caesar's wife Calpurnia begged him not to go to the Senate, telling him she had dreamed of his statue spouting blood while smiling Romans washed their hands in it. A soothsayer had already warned him to beware the Ides of March. Caesar hesitated, but one of the conspirators arrived at his house and mocked him for listening to a woman's dreams. Caesar went. The Senate was meeting that day in the Theater of Pompey, beneath a statue of the very man Caesar had defeated in the Civil War. As Caesar took his seat, a senator named Tillius Cimber approached him with a petition, grabbed his toga, and pulled it from his shoulder. It was the signal. Casca struck first, stabbing Caesar in the neck from behind, but the blow was clumsy and only grazed him. Caesar spun around, grabbed Casca's arm, and stabbed him with his stylus. But the other conspirators closed in from every direction. Daggers flashed. Caesar fought and twisted, but there were too many. He was stabbed 23 times. Ancient sources say that when Caesar saw Brutus among his attackers, he pulled his toga over his head and stopped fighting, either in grief or in a final act of dignity, choosing not to let the world see his face as he died. He collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue, and his blood pooled on the marble floor. The conspirators rushed out into the forum, brandishing their bloody daggers and shouting that they had killed a tyrant and restored liberty. But the Roman people did not celebrate. They stared in silence, then slowly drifted away, locking their doors behind them. Rome held its breath. The assassination did not save the Republic. It destroyed it. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, turned the people against the conspirators with a devastating funeral speech, displaying Caesar's torn and bloody toga to a crowd that erupted in fury. Mobs burned the conspirators' houses. Brutus and Cassius fled Rome and raised armies, but were defeated at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC. Both took their own lives. The power vacuum Caesar's death created led to 13 more years of civil war, ending only when Caesar's adopted heir Octavian defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra at Actium and became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The republic the conspirators had killed to save was dead, and the empire they had feared was born from its ashes.